Thanks, Indra. Hi, everyone. We're going to go through the presentation around generative AI in a bit. Just wanted to let you guys know that the whole session will be divided into two parts. So we're going to be talking about generative AI in general, and we're going to be focusing about one of the most common use cases that everyone been talking about, and which is actually applicable across all the industry, which is the enterprise knowledge base. It has find it does find its application across many industries, and there have been certain organizations who have implemented that successfully and have gained high impact to it through their processes. And the second part will be a live demo that Indra will be taking you guys through it on the Azure platform and how OpenAI and generative AI services can help you to achieve that. So before we go ahead, Indra, next slide, please. So before we go ahead, I mean, just a recap. I don't think there will be anyone in the audience. I mean, raise your hand if there is, who would not know about generative AI. And they have been the talk of the town for a while now, and no one in the right mind can deny its importance today or its impact in the future. And what it has allowed us is to open doors for new possibilities when it comes to AI impact in the organization. Next slide, please. And when we talk about opening new possibilities, what it has allowed us or any organization to do is just previously you had to build teams for any kind of AI mission that you want to have, but this has allowed you to start at 70% of your journey and has done the job already. And generative AI, as we spoke, it's not a new concept. I think it has been, next slide, Indra, please, has been in the talk of the town for a while now. It started in early 1960s. Next slide, Indra. So it has started early in the 1960s, but and it's been a long journey when it comes to LLMs and AI. However, in the recent 1.5 or 2 years, everyone knows that it has seen a considerable amount of development. Recently, this year itself, we have got GPT-4 launched, Llama 2 launched, RAG 2 launched, and the community is making quite an advancement in this technology. Next slide, Indra. And with that, there are organizations who have, as we spoke, organizations who have already implemented some use cases. One of the most common use cases that we spoke about was enterprise knowledge base. And there are companies like BuzzSumo, Safera, GitHub Pilot, Copilot, everyone would have heard about them, Synaptic, and Medical Artrace, who have implemented this solution to create great impacts in their for their organization. For example, BuzzSumo, which is a highly well-known platform or social media platform or social media aggregator platform, have used generative AI to create AI-powered headlines that has seen a click-through rate of increase in the click-through rate of about 17%. So that's exactly what we're going to talking about today. We're going to talk and we're going to demystify how do you implement an enterprise knowledge base within your organization using Azure platform. Next slide, please. So there are two ways to do that on Azure platform. One is the embeddings approach, which is more similar to the traditional NLP approach we used to have. However, with that advancement and with the availability of new models like the GPT-3 or GPT-4, it has been much more easier. And over here, you can use, in this approach, you could use the Azure OpenAI embedding model to create vectorized data. And then the vector search is a feature that significantly increases your semantic relevance of any search result. And the other one is Azure Search approach. Now, Azure Search approach basically is Azure AI Search is a service that allows you to search and retrieve relevant text data based on user query. So everything that you would do in an embedding approach is basically Microsoft has now come up with Azure AI Search Service that automatically does it for you. Now, this service supports your full text search, semantic search, vector search, and hybrid search. And we're going to talk about how this works. But before we get into that, let's just go through and revisit some core concepts that would be used in both of these methods. Indra, next slide. So first one is Azure Open AI Service. Now, Azure Open AI Services, as we discussed in the last slide, it provides a REST API access to the OpenAI's powerful language models, whether it's an OpenAI embedding model, whether it's a LLM, whether it's a image model or a video model that for the likes of GPT-3, GPT-4, GPT-4 plus Vision is now available in preview as well, which Indra will take you through that when in your demo. The next one is Azure AI Search. As we discussed, it's a search as a service solution that is being provided by Microsoft that provides secure information retrieval at scale. The next is chunking. Now, chunking is a process that involves partitioning of large documents into smaller chunks to extract relevant information. And it is quite an important process when we talk about building an enterprise knowledge base solution. Let's try to understand that with an example. So normally, an Azure OpenAI model will have has a limitation of maximum length of 8,191 words that it can process at one time. Now, if you have a document that is a very large document, it will cause issues and it will quickly hit the rate limit of the processing that OpenAI model can do. And simply because a token, basically, which is the processing unit for any OpenAI model, approximately is comprised of 4 characters. And if we go by that logic, that leaves us with only 6,000 words. So now you can see if the document is quite large, you will start hitting the rate limits. And that's why chunking becomes very important as a core concept over there. And then we've got tokens. Everyone understand tokens is basically tokens is a collection of approximately 4 characters that is used for processing by the OpenAI models. Your TPMs and RPM. TPM is your token per limit, which is a configurable setting in your OpenAI models. And what it basically says is that it defines the number of tokens the OpenAI model can process it in a minute. And the RPM is the request per limit. It defines the number of requests an OpenAI model can process in a minute. It's quite different, but it's also related as well. So it's basically, let's suppose you can understand it from a way that 4 people are sending an OpenAI request at the same time. So that or making a query to the OpenAI model at the same time, that becomes your request. But within a request, the length of the request will decide the number of tokens. So your TPM gets spread across your number of requests as well. And that's how it's related. Normally, the ratio is around 6:1. And that's how the TPM and RPM gets calculated when you're using an OpenAI model. Indexing. Now, this is a process that is used by Azure AI Search Service to create search indexes for information retrieval. For analogy, let's try to understand search index is basically a table. You can think of it that as a table wherein your documents are basically rows or information that are available in that search index. And one of the key important attributes for any search index is the document key, which is a unique identifier that the Azure AI Search Service use to reference the document while giving you the response back. The next one is embedding. Now, embedding is, I think it's a well-known concept in terms of data when it comes to data science or NLP, which is a mathematical or a special format representation for any textual corpus or any textual data, which is basically gets converted into a vector and gets stored into a vector store. Coming back to vector store, as we discussed, that embeddings are the mathematical representation or special representation of the textual data that gets converted into a vector, and vector store is used to save these vectors in there. As of now, there are a couple of options available on the platform, Azure platform, which is your Cosmos DB, we've got Redis, we've got Azure SQL now available that can be used as a vector store, and then you've got PostgreSQLs. But outside Azure as well, there are many more. One of the prime example, and then that everyone is talking about, is Pinecone. And the last one is system prompt. Now, system prompt is similar to your prompt, or the user prompt that basically a user types in, or a user query that they make to an OpenAI model. The only difference between the system prompt and the user prompt is system prompt actually defines the role or the behavior of OpenAI model. So while you are interacting with the online version of Chat or Chat GPT, you must have gone through some prompt examples wherein they ask you to define the role, wherein you type in act as a Shakespearean writer, or act as a data leader, or act as a marketing assistant. When you're saying act as a marketing assistant, that's the system prompt that you're giving to the online version of your of ChatGPT. This is something that you can configure at the back end when you're working with OpenAI models and have that saved. And this helps us greatly when we're talking about different use cases when you're trying to deploy or in the organization. For example, if we are deploying a chat OpenAI solution or generative AI solution for a customer service department, or a business unit, wherein we are trying to create a chat bot for customer service, system prompt will help you to make sure and define that role for your OpenAI model, wherein you will say act as a customer service agent or customer service representative in for a broadband company, something like this. So that's where system prompt is going to be very useful. Cool. I'm going to take a break for 30 seconds and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to ask questions. What are tokens? I'm serious, okay? What are tokens? Answer is there. Yeah, four characters in one token. Yeah, very good. We didn't get any swag, sorry. So, any other questions that you have? TPM, RPM. What is TPM?
Tokens per limit. Oh.
Well done. Well done, Vaishnavi. RPM. Request per limit. Okay, very easy questions, right? Okay. You have all passed. Okay, sure, you can go.
Cool. Thanks, Indra. Moving on. So now, when we have gone gone through these some of the core concepts, let's try to demystify what we understand by embedding approach and how it actually works. Now, within the embedding approach, there are two parts to it. One is the embedding creation, which is very similar to what we have been doing, or you guys must have studied with NLP courses that you must have taken, is how do we create embeddings and vectors out of the textual data that we have got at hand. And the other part is basically the query and retrieval, which normally is all relates to RAG. We're not going to go into RAG because I know Habib was there with you guys last week, and he has taken you guys through RAG. So we're just going to leave that aside, and we're just going to focus on embedding approach and how it is done. So now with this approach, your data sources could be anything. It could be a FTP server. It could be email attachment. If it could be a web application, it could be a SharePoint site. It could be anything. And what you would do with this approach is you would take those all those data sources and you would try to get that into a blob storage. And how would you do that? I mean, there are ADF Azure Data Factory that is a integration data pipelines as a service that is available. You can configure it from there, or you could use logic apps, or you could use function apps. All these things you could use and pull all that data and ingest that into a blob storage. From blob storage, once the data is available in the blob storage or ingested in the blob storage, you would configure an Azure function to extract the text from these documents. Now, your documents could be of any format, right? It could be a Word document, it could be a PDF document, it could be a PowerPoint document, it could be a Notepad file, anything it could be there. So the way we look at it is that there are documents that are searchable and there are documents which are not searchable. On top of that, the document could be in any it could be in any language. There could be textual data in the form of image as well that you would want to extract. So if those are the cases wherein the document is not searchable, like in terms when it comes to PDFs or images, or if the document is in another language, not in English, or not in the language that is for use case, there are Azure services that are available that you can leverage on. For example, Azure Translator for transforming or translating the document into a language that is required for this use case, or Azure AI Document Intelligence that can help extract text from the PDF or from the image and all that. And then the core process or the core need here is that we need to extract the text from the documents. And based on whether the document is searchable or non-searchable, like for searching, you can use Python codes with Excel, CSV, Word, or text files, and you can rely on other services. You extract the text. And once the text are extracted, you do chunking on top of that. So now again, as we discussed, large corpus of data gets divided into smaller chunks. Now chunks could be you could decide whether you want to go for a variable size. I'm not going to go in detail on there, but you could decide whether you want to go for a variable size chunking process or you want to go for a fixed size chunking process. This something that you would need to think based on the use cases and based on the document size that you have got, or the document that you might receive in the future as well, because it's not going to be a one day solution. I mean, obviously you will keep on getting data and you will keep on getting documents as well. So that's a decision that you will have to make, whether you want to go for a fixed chunking size or you want to go for a variable chunking size. But the core thing is that once the data has been extracted or when the text has been extracted from the documents, a chunking process will take place, which will divide the large corpus of data into chunks. And from there, you could leverage the OpenAI embedding model to convert each chunks into embeddings. As we discussed, embeddings are basically, again, the vector representation or mathematical or special representation of your textual data. And these chunks, when converted into embeddings, will be stored in your vector database. Now, again, you have a choice of Azure Cosmos DB, your SQL database, your Postgres server, your Redis. The choice again will depend upon the use case, the tech stack that is currently available in the organization, and then of course cost is always going to be the biggest limiting factor. Some of these databases incur a lot of cost and also have a lot high learning curve. For example, Cosmos DB. Also, it's quite a complex architecture when it comes to Cosmos DB, and indexing becomes quite taxing or quite difficult, and managing those indexing become quite difficult when it comes to Cosmos DB. But again, it has its own advantages when information retrieval is quite fast as well. So it depends upon the use case, depends upon the technology stack that is available, depends upon the other limiting factors. You will have your choice. You could decide on the choice of vector database wherein you will store your embeddings. or the vectors basically. So now that's one part wherein you have what you have done so far. You have taken the corpus, or you have taken the text, you have did a chunking, you have divided the text into smaller chunks, and then you have applied embeddings on top of that using OpenAI embedding model, converted that into a vector, and stored that into a vector database. Now the next part is query and retrieval, which is the end user part. And how does that work is um, you will have your web service, basically your app service, whether it's going to be web uh, a portal wherein which will be act as a medium of user interaction between the OpenAI solution that you are building and the user. I think Microsoft does have default web services available that you could easily leverage, which Indra will show you, easily leverage to spin up a web app quickly enough for a MVP or a POC. And then so the user will send a query through your application, through the web app or any other application that you have built. And we're going to do the same process of embedding to the query as well, or the prompt as well. So we're going to convert the prompt into embedding as well. And then at the back end, a vector similarity search happens. Right now, OpenAI model use cosine similarity. Everyone from the data science club or whoever in uni might have studied cosine similarity. It's basically trying to find the similarity between the two vectors and based on the angle. And that's what happens. So a vector similarity search in the database based on the query that user has input retrieves the top matching content based on your query vector. And then the top matches along with the system prompt, which you have already defined based on whatever the use case that you're deploying, are fed into the OpenAI large language model, which is such as GPT-3 or GPT-4. And that's it. And then once that is done, you get back the response, or the user get back the response for their query. And it's basically, it could be a top 5, 10, you can decide how many search documents you want to return back to the user. So you can return back those top 5 matching documents or matching content based on the query vector, and you have your answers over there. Cool. So that was your embedding approach. Let's look into the Azure search AI search approach. Indra, next slide, please.
Before you start the next slide, just any questions? Yeah.
I have one question. My name is Prashant.
Okay. Yeah. Go, Prashant.
What if the query from the user doesn't have too much of context? Suppose like he just gave the one word prompt. Okay. So in that case, if we search, we're not able to grab the correct documents, right?
Exactly. And good question, Prashant. And that's where your system message will come in play. So when you're defining your system message, you could say, if, for example, when you go to chat or GPT, if there is no answer, it comes back with an answer, right? I don't know about this answer, or I have not seen this, something like that. So that's where you can define your system message in such a way that if you do not find any match, give this whatever the response you want to give back to the user, you can define in the system message. For example, hey, the search query or the query prompt that you have given, it's not sufficient to do the search. Try to elaborate or try different prompts, something like that. So just in case if nothing happens, or if the OpenAI solution is not able to find any answer, you can configure that in your system prompt.
It can be a standard response.
Yeah. Understood. And next thing is like the way you define the process. To me, like is that could be very long running task, basically getting from the prompt to the response, because you can see that it involves a lot of steps. So
it looks like involves a lot of steps, but it is not a long running process. Once the vector embeddings and everything else are stored in the vector database, that vector database actually helps your retrieval to be very fast. So while it is explanation, it looks long, but it's not actually.
Understood. Why I'm saying because we had to do embedding of the query, and the response also goes through the LLM with something like that. So it's okay. So I mean, I haven't done that, so just
Yeah,
That's
so
it.
of course, the first part, which is the embedding creation, you would do before you go ahead and publish your solution to the user, right? So that's, let's suppose you can talk about in a very general sense. You could think of this as a data processing, pre-processing, feature engineering step of any model that you would do when it comes to data science models. So that's something that you would have already done and would have saved the embeddings and everything else in the vector database. And of course, all your platform would be configured. And yes, the query embeddings happen on the fly, but it's quite fast.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thanks, Prashant. Okay. Okay, don't know your name. Okay, so Tushar, the question is, how do you make your unsearchable documents searchable? Which you mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah, so it's basically, I mean, I don't see a scenario wherein your document will be unsearchable as long as you are doing the indexing and everything. So when there is a document, let's suppose, and the question is like, okay, I mean, let me try to rephrase this question. Once you have done or your embedding and you have all that stuff you have done, and let's suppose there is new data available, there's new documents that have come across, you will have to I mean, it as simple as that. You'll have to go ahead and do this process again and save the embeddings.
Rerun the index, basically, and then it will be searchable. Okay, thanks, Tushar. Any other questions before we, yeah. Yeah.
How do you decide like either for chunk? Like how is the relationship between chunks like are they like the roles and for in the daily or
Okay, the question is, how do you decide the chunking process? How do you decide the relationship between each of the chunks and yeah, and the size?
So again, I mean, as we discussed, it's mostly going to be dependent upon the use cases that you're trying to deploy. The chunking process. There are, as we discussed, there are two ways to do it. One is the fixed one.
Fixed chunking, fixed
Fixed
size
chunk,
chunk.
yes,
Yeah.
fixed size chunk, and the other one is the variable size chunk. And you will have to think about how many words that you want to have in a particular chunk based on the model or limits that you're using and the token limit that it have right now. For example, and the other thing that you will have to think about also is semantic meaning as well of those paragraphs. For example, you could define a chunk to have 200 words, and then you can allow that chunk to have some kind of overlap between like 10 to 15% of the content. When I say overlap, think about you have a big textual document and you're dividing that into chunks. It is not recommended and it's not almost impossible as well to say define a chunk in such a way that only certain words will be in a particular chunk. There has to be an overlap to retain the semantic significance as well. So that's how you would have to think based when it comes to chunking. Does that answer the question? Not sure.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, on a high level, how are the document embeddings created as opposed to word embeddings?
It's created based on as we discussed, it's created based on the chunking that you're doing on your textual data. So it's not much different, but as of now, what you're saying, giving is you're dividing your document into smaller chunks and then giving that, and it stores those embeddings that way.
Each chunk is sort of a no, it won't be a token. So for even if you pass one word, it will create a couple of embeddings, right? Few embeddings. So when you pass the chunk as well, you will create it will create a few embeddings. So yeah, for the entire chunk. Christy, yeah, you have a question. Sorry, did that answer your question?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
Christy.
Okay,
I have
Christy,
a
yeah.
question. If there are some mistakes in embedding models, how should it be figured out or find out? Or if the end user find mistakes, can he or she revise it? How does this model to be like a circle to revise and new creation?
Sorry, Christy, I couldn't understand you. Do you want to type your question in the chat while we take another question, one last question before we proceed to the next one? Prashant, yeah.
Yep, similar to that, what Christy is asking is something like how we evaluate the quality of the embedding. Basically, I mean, like because we have just we given our text data and it become a like some uh, array of vectors, right?
Embed, yes.
So how can we like how can we trust that like the OpenAI did the proper job? He didn't lost my context and everything because maybe they don't know the meaning of some words and while converting the embeddings. So something like that. I'm just guessing that maybe the Christy is asking. I'm guessing.
So Prashant, answer
Yes,
to that question is that, that's why we say that you allow for an overlap between the chunks, like 15-20% of overlap between the chunks. That should help you. That normally helps to retain the semantic meaning of the chunks or the document that you hold. Because if you create chunks which are quite disparate, as you correctly mentioned, you will lose the meaning of semantic meaning of those embeddings going forward. So that's why you would allow an overlap between the chunks of around 15-20%.
What I mean is like with something within the chunk, right? Suppose it I'm just assume that like it could be a something that like LLM model does not know about it, right? Basically the semantic meaning of these words and something like suppose very technical document that and words that never seen by the LLM embedding model. So
So Prashant, you're confusing two things here. We're not talking about right now LLM model in a sense that it is pre-trained or on something or something like that. What we are saying is you have an OpenAI model, which is an embedding model. You give the text and it will convert into embedding, and the whole thing is based on cosine similarity algorithm. So it doesn't matter what the word and what LLM understands it or not. All you're doing is text from this and text from that, and converting into vectors, calculating the cosine similarity, and based on that producing results. Does that make sense?
yes, okay, maybe I'll ask the question maybe later on. Okay, you guys carry on.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Christy, you can type your question. If your question is not answered, you can type it in the chat, please. Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Cool. So moving on, now we have got your Azure AI search approach. Now, again, with Azure AI search, there are two ways to do it. One is the pull approach and one is the push approach. The difference between the pull approach and the push approach is basically your data sources. There are data sources that are supported with the Azure AI search. However, if you have like very legacy data sources or some data sources which are not supported, there is a technical documentation we can share afterwards on what kind of, and it's available on the Microsoft documentation as well, what data sources are supported and what not. So if there are certain legacy data sources that are not supported, then you will go to push approach. However, if we are talking about if the data sources are supported, then of course pull approach works. And again, the process is same. You would go ahead and collect from all your data sources. You will dump everything in the blob storage, and this is and put that into a blob storage from, all your documents or all your data from different data sources into a blob storage, and put it there. And this time, rather than these document being converted into you defining Azure function to take this document, convert that into a chunks, and then using an OpenAI embedding model, your Azure AI search can hook into those documents and do all of this for you. Now it could be one single blob storage that it can hook into, or it could be multiple sources as well at the same time. You can point the location of your data sources in the Azure AI search, which Indra will show you on the platform, how and can connect to those data sources and retrieve the documents or retrieve the information. And then Azure AI Search uses this to create a searchable index of your documents that are stored in your blob storage or any other location. This is done through a process called indexing, which we went through in the core concepts. And then what happens after that? If again, similar thing like searchable, non-searchable documents, whether it's a PDF or whether it's a Word, and all that. And so based on that, you can apply your AI enrichment to built-in custom skills in Azure AI Search to convert that PDF into a more searchable or an image, extract text from the image. And once that is done, your index is set up basically, which is exactly what we were doing in the embedding approach. But right now, this is being done by Azure AI Search service. And when that is set up, that's your index creation done. And the second part is query and retrieval. Again, user sends a response from the Azure App Service or any other interaction platform that you would have built that goes into Azure AI Search. The same embedding process happens, and the Azure AI Search returns the information along with the query prompt to the user. So basically, what it is doing is Azure AI Search is doing all the job that was being done in the previous approach for you. The only difference is, why would you use an Azure AI Search as compared to an embedding approach? It's about the control. Whether you want to create your own embeddings and have greater control on on the solution that you're deploying, versus you want to have a quick spin up to the solution that you're deploying. This normally helps to prove the value in the organization because there's not much effort required. Of course, there is a bit of an understanding and platform creation, but then again, it's easier that. Moving on quickly to push approach and being cautious of time, as we discussed, push approach probably would be used mostly when there are data sources that are not available through or not available. No, I'm not saying not available, not supported by the Azure AI service. So you would create an app service to pull and you will push the documents into the app service, and which will indirectly push that into an Azure AI search. One of the advantage of this is the data or the information that is being given to the user is always up to date because you're pushing automatically documents into the Azure AI service, so Azure AI search service, rather than pulling the document from Azure AI search service. Apart from that, everything else remains same. Everything is happening behind the scenes in the Azure AI search service. Cool. Moving on, next slide. Cool. So this is how, this is like a one run through and three ways how you can deploy an enterprise knowledge-based solution. One thing that we at Data Engine are doing and how we are helping our clients is basically we are taking a step back and we are helping our clients to create a secured production-ready landing zone subscription for adoption of more OpenAI models and giving them the capability to build on these new use cases. So if we talk about the product architecture that Data Engine works on, or that has developed for the clients, and what we deploy with the clients, you can see over here. three layers: infrastructure as a service. So we help them to automate the process of building the platform infrastructure when it comes to net private endpoints, networking, DNS, your security policies, your RBAC, and your landing zone. On top of that, you have platform as a service or a data service layer, wherein we talk about, and we have the data architecture and also the OpenAI services that we help them to deploy, and then of course the interaction or the use cases, wherein we discussed about web apps and everything else. So we've kind of created a secured ISO 27, which is a standard for security measures aligned landing zone, all automated, that could be deployed in an organization to quickly spin up a POC and leverage the value and quickly prove the value in the business for OpenAI or generative AI. So at this point, I think next one is demo. Indra, I'm not sure if, and Akash, if we want to take like a 5-minute break before we get into demo, or it's up to you guys.
Continue? We'll stretch. Maybe all of you get up. You can stand up and then stretch your legs. Don't move out of your place. Stretch. Okay, you can sit down. Any guesses where we are going to do the demo? Any guesses where we are going to do the demo? Of course, in this room, but what's the environment?
Data engine.
Who said that? Yeah, I couldn't see. Yes, it is Azure. Okay, how do we get to Azure? Anyone knows? What is it called? What's the environment, Azure environment called? Who said Azure? How do we get into Azure? What's the URL? I seem to forget the URL. It's called Azure Portal, okay? It's called Azure Portal. So I'm just going to type portal.azure.com. And then it will log me in straight away because I have logged in earlier. But whoever have, if you are accessing the portal.azure.com initially, you need to sign in, and you cannot use your Yahoo, Gmail, and Outlook accounts. You need to have a work account or a student account to sign in. And there are some free services that you can use, but I don't think Azure OpenAI is a free service. There are some, what do you call, prerequisites, which I want to go through before I start the demo. So we are going to use two services today. One is the Azure OpenAI service, and the other one is Azure AI Search. So in order to use Azure OpenAI service, these are the prerequisites that you are seeing on the screen. One is you need to apply for access. So you need to belong to, you need to have a subscription, and you need to provide the ID of that subscription. There is a form. Applying for access is in that link. There is a form that you need to fill, and only after Microsoft approves, then only you can deploy the Azure OpenAI service. And you need a company email address, and you need permissions from the administrator of your Azure portal, Azure tenant, to create resources and deploy models. And also you need to be familiar with Azure and Azure Portal. Okay. So that's the prerequisites part of it. Now let's go into Azure Portal. How many of you are familiar with Azure Portal? Hands up. 1, 2, you don't count, Suraj. Okay, 1. I'll just take you quickly through the Azure Portal. There is something called subscriptions. It's like a container. I'm just going to talk later, layman terms here. So inside the subscription, you will have resource groups. So I'm clicking the subscriptions. I have 2 subscriptions here. One is the OpenAI testing subscription. So that is the subscription that I'm going to use. So you need to have an Azure subscription created. And within this subscription, you will have resource groups, and within the resource groups, you will create resources. So I have quite a few resource groups here. One is for ADF, one is for OpenAI service, one is for Vision service, and one is for web app. RG. I just try to name them as RG so that I know that these are the resource groups. And within each of the resource groups, you will have the resources. So if I click on the OpenAI RG, we can see the OpenAI service that I have created earlier. Okay, so now that's in gist how the structure works. You have the subscription, you have the resource groups, and then you create resource under the resource groups. So now I'm just going to go home, and then I want to create what service should we create now? First one, we are going to create 2 services. One is Azure OpenAI service. Yeah. So I'm just going to create that. So how do we create? Can anyone see anything there to create? Can anyone spot anything? Yes. So create a resource. And then we should search. Yes, search for. Very good. Okay, so can you see Azure OpenAI? Just click on that. And then just create. Easy. Okay, this is where you see the subscriptions and resource groups and regions and stuff. Okay. So I'm just going to create a new resource group, and I'll call it UOADSC RG. The reason why I'm creating this resource group is it will be easier for me to create the resource, delete the resource group later on, because this is just a demo. And the region, there is no New Zealand region, so I'm just going to choose Australia East region. And we need to name this instance of the OpenAI that we are creating. So I'm just going to name it as DSC OpenAI instance. Okay, and then pricing tier. There is only one pricing tier that is available, S0, which is easy for us. Okay. If we are creating in an enterprise organization, we need to worry about these networks and tags and stuff. At the moment, I'm just not going to worry about those. I'll just say all networks can access this one. And then you can give some tags. Then this will evaluate and then give us a brief summary of what we are trying to do. If you are okay with that, just hit on create. Okay, deployment takes a couple of minutes. Any questions? Any questions? No. Okay. It was Bedrock. I think it's Bedrock. It's called Bedrock. Bedrock, yeah. I don't know whether it's equivalent, but yeah, there is Bedrock, where you can create, you can use generative AI. Okay, so your deployment is complete. Now you can go to the resource. Okay, so now this is the You can see the overview. In the overview, it creates endpoints and it creates keys, and it will give you a summary of which subscription it is being used and things like that. Now, here you see something called Azure OpenAI Studio, where you can uh, where you can look at the available models and then deploy the models. So I'm just going to go to the Azure OpenAI Studio. Okay, so now in the Azure OpenAI Studio, you can use these to start off with. But now, what I will do is I will go to the, because I want to deploy a couple of models. So I'm just going to go to the models menu under the management. And you have all these models that are available, which are basically OpenAI models. So I will deploy, one is the GPT 3.5 Turbo. So you just need to click on that and then just deploy. And when you click on deploy, you have to give a deployment name. I want to know that this is GPT 3.5 Turbo. So I'll just give that. And then here, you can use, for this model, you can do some content filtering if you want. And at the moment, it is using default content filtering. And your maximum tokens per minute is 1K. I'm just going to increase. I think the maximum token limit is 300K here. I'm just going to use 104K for this thing, for this project, and then I'm just going to successfully create that. And while we are here, I'm just going to create another one, which is in preview, which is cool stuff that we can see. So this is GPT-4, and it is vision preview. What it means is, if you have a computer vision service deployed in Azure, you can combine the computer vision capabilities of Azure with the generative AI capabilities. So I'll just demonstrate that for you. So I'm going to deploy that, and I'm going to give the name as Vision GPT-4 Vision. Then I'll just increase this also, and then go. So once you deploy, you can go and check in your deployments just to see what are your deployments. So these two models are available for us here. So now you can test these. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm just going to go into chat, and then you can see here, you can see the prompt, and you can select a template. So templates are, you can configure your chatbot to be a IRS tax chatbot, or a marketing writing assistant, or a Xbox customer support agent, or hiking recommendations chatbot, JSON formatter assistant, default. I'm going to use default, or an empty example, and then you can update that one. Once you choose that, it will ask you whether you want to update the system message. So it has updated the system message to, you are an AI assistant that helps people find information. You can change that to whatever you want if you want to. Okay, and here in the deployment space, you can see that there are two models here that you have deployed. I'm just going to use the first model first. And what this is doing is, it's just going to use the GPT 3.5 model of Llama. What is the GPT 3.5 model? Is it which service? Have you heard of that? GPT 3.5? OpenAI, yeah, that's what I wanted to. I just wanted to trick you. Okay, so it's from OpenAI, so it's going to use that. So I haven't given any of our own data at the moment. So we are going to just maybe I'll just say hi to see whether it's responding. And it is responding. Hello, how can I assist you? And any question that you want me to ask? What is the other name for X or something like company X? Okay, what's the any questions? Come on, Tom, help me. Who is Tom? Sorry?
Who is Omar?
Ah, let's do that. Blah 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 blah. Okay, you got the answer. Okay. So that's the capability of GPT 335 Turbo. Any questions? No? Okay. Now this you all know the GPT 3.5 limitations, right? What is the limitation? First and foremost limitation? Sorry? No, not up to date. Yes. So yeah, let's not use that. Let's go to and also I want to show you before we move on, just want to show you the parameters. So you can say maximum response restrict to 800, and then you can say you can increase the temperature, you can configure all these. And then here it shows you how many input tokens you have used. I have available 4,000. I have already used 1, 2, 3. Okay. So now I'm going to change the deployment to GPT-4 Vision. And see now this interface has a little attachment here. So what it does, what any guesses what it does? Yeah, not upload files. You can add just upload image. Okay. Find some image now. Let's try and can't use that. Sorry. Oh God. That's a good idea. Okay, so I'll just upload something. And then I'll say explain this image. And then send that. So clear the chat and doing something. Clear the chat and upload it again. And I'll just go and change my system message template to Shakespeare. Because the other day I did something and then, oh, now it is giving. This image appears to be a group photo of several individuals at a professional event. They are wearing lanyards with badges and yeah, it's still generating. Okay. And I think it has completed now. I hope it still has that image. Let's see. I'm just going to ask one more question. Are there any logos? Okay. Yeah, it must have cleared it. So I'm just going to clear the chat again. And now, remember I said you can use computer vision in combination with generative AI, the OpenAI. So for that, we can use this model. that we have deployed, GPT-4 Vision. So for that, if I click on enhancements, which Tushar also was talking in his diagram. So if I click on this one, if I switch on the enhancements, you need to choose a computer vision resource, which we should create like how we have created the OpenAI resource. I have already created one. Hope that I have that. So yeah, this is the computer vision resource that I have created. So I'm just going to use that and then save that. Okay, so now after clearing the chat, when I said, are there any logos, it's giving me in a Shakespeare style. That's what it is giving me, okay? Now, I'm just going to clear the chat again. Now there is another capability where earlier you could see only upload image. Okay, now you can see upload video because we are using the vision service, computer vision service, this enhancement. So I'm just going to upload a video, a macaroni recipe. It will take a little bit of time, maybe 30 seconds to load and ingest. Meanwhile, I'll just write playing this video. Once that ingestion is completed, then we will get the button to upload. I think it will come in a Shakespearean style. Let's see what it's going to say. Did any one of you took poetry as your subject? English or no? Okay. Otherwise, you can generate your poems. So let's see. Bit slow, but okay. Any questions so far? So it's retrieving the frames. It found 20 frames. Can you hear me? I think I lost the internet, so that's the reason. I'd have to.
Indra,
Which is called failed. Yeah.
Indra, we can't see your screen online.
I think it's frozen.
I'll share.
Says content sharing is ended here.
Can you see now?
No, it's still frozen.
What about now?
Still the same. We can hear you, but it's still frozen.
Tom is doing something. Looks like. Internet looks okay. See whether this will upload. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, we can screen now.
Yeah, I had to restart the process of uploading the video. So let's see. Any questions? Any questions in the chat? Yeah.
If it's been answered.
During this demo, are you paying for any of the tokens, or is this like a free demo that you've got a certain number of tokens you can use?
No. We are paying.
Okay.
Yeah. It's there is no free tier in this one. Okay, so this is what it's going to be lengthy because it's Shakespeare, right? So in this moving picture, we lay our scene in a clue. Oh my God, I can't read that. You can see for yourself. Online, can you see what it is generating?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you want to generate something in the Shakespeare, as a Shakespeare writing assistant, that's what you get if you upload a macaroni recipe. Okay, I'm just going to ask another question here. Is there any text? Because I know I have seen one text there. Did any one of you observe that text? Yes, very good. Hungry, right? I won't take long now then. Okay, while that is happening, let's do something so that I won't be showing the vector search today. I'll just show you very basic how to create the Azure AI search that Tushar was talking about 50% of the time today. Okay, so let's create another resource. What should I type? What is the service that we are creating? Well done. At least somebody is paying attention. Okay, choose Azure AI search and then click create. I'm going to create a new UOA search RG. Then UOA search instance. And then choosing Australia East. And then standard pricing tier. I'll just review and create. I don't want to go through those tabs. It gives me a summary and then I'm happy with the summary and then I'm just creating a account. Meanwhile, we'll go and check. Okay, so it has found two texts here, first and last, which brand the dish as masala macaroni, which you were right, and declare it ready to eat. Okay, so that's what this has shown. And there are, if you look at completions, you can load a lot of examples from here. So here there are a lot of examples. So for example, if you want to generate an email in your company that you are working for, if you join, don't use this. If you join a company as an intern, not in data engine, okay? The CEO is sitting here. Okay, so if you want to generate a job description or if you want to generate a quiz, you can use these. Summarize an article, you can use these, and then you can just generate. Then it's going to generate. Okay. So we need to select a deployment for that. So let's not do that for now. Okay. Now, yeah, your deployment is complete. Deployment of Azure AI search. Now I'm going to go to the AI search, and here you can create your data sources, your indexes, all the things that Tushar was talking about, and also your skill sets. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just import, and here there are two tabs. What is that? One is import data, and then the other one is import and vectorize data. I'm not going to use that today. I'm just going to use this one. If I don't use that, you can't see the searches that we were talking about, the keyword search, the semantic search, and there will be a hybrid search, which will involve both semantic and keyword search and vector search. There is another thing called vector search. We will just see what semantic search is because of lack of time. Okay, so I'm just going to import data, use the import data button, and I'm going to use samples. Okay, don't want to use any external data, and there is a hotel sample here. I'm just going to use that, and then I'm going to create a add cognitive skills. So what it does is you can enrich. I'm just going to see which ones I want to. You can add enrichments. So extract people names, whatever you want to extract, key phrases, whatever you want to do. If you want to translate text, all those you can add, and then source data will be hotel ID, and then you can go and create customize target index, and then you can that is the string, that is the primary key sort of thing, and then you can make others searchable. So it has extracted these. You can retrievable and searchable needs to be picked, and then you create a indexer. I'm just going to name it, and schedule can't be configured on samples. Okay. Okay, let's create that, and then maybe we can run it later on. Okay, so once that is created, that imported, so now you can see in your data sources your hotel sample, your indexes that you have created, and the index. But there is zero data, right? So let's see whether we can run it. Yeah, now document count is 20. Okay, it has run the, and because we did not use with vector, it has 0. Okay, now you can use this, for example, in this one, you can start searching. I don't know what the sample has, but let's say, tell me search. See, it's going to give you the JSON. So you can test your thing here. So there is a double sanctuary resort is one of the hotel name, and it gives you the results like that. So if you do the same thing, if you use this Azure AI search, so now what we can do is, now we have created the Azure AI search, right? Now, if we want to use it in here, what we can do is there is something called add your data here. So if I click on this one, you can add a data source. And one of your data source can be Azure AI Search that you have already created. So that's what I will choose. Other sources can be your blob storage, or you can upload one file and then you can try that out as well. So I'm just going to use Azure AI Search, choose your subscription, and Azure AI Search service is this one. And from that, if there are multiple indexes, you have to choose your right index. I have only one index, so I'm just choosing that, and then I'll just click next. Let's save and close. So once I do that, I'll clear this chat, and also I think in the prompt I'm just going to use default. I'm tired of this Shakespeare. So I'm just going to use the default one. This is going to work. Wait, just say hi to see whether it is working. So, okay. It's trying to stop it because I just typed I, it's thinking. See. What I'm trying to show you is here we can search in this index. If we search the same thing, what is the hotel name or something like that, that should give the answer here. And what the indexer and index process has done is it has already chunked the documents, the sample that we have given, and then it is ready for our prompt and result part. So hopefully that will work. Yeah, okay, now it's working. It's a bit slow. Okay, now what hotel names exist or something like that. Let's see. What are okay. So it's giving you some answers, and also if you want, you all learn Python, right, in your data science. So if you want to deal with the Python code, you can just view the code here. And then you can work with it. You can configure your API keys and all these things if you want to modify some of the things that you want to do. And also from here, the last bit that I want to show you is once this is just a playground, right? This is a chat playground. But if you want to give a link to other people for them to use, you can actually deploy it to a new web app. So I'm just going to, and then you can create a new web app or update an existing one. I'm just going to create a new web app. Select the subscription. I'm just going to select the same subscription. And then resource group, just select something that is already there, web app RG. And then location is Australia East, pricing plan. I just choose basic one. And I'm not going to enable that. I'll just go deploy. It'll take a couple of minutes and then you can ask these questions. It's the same question there as well. So in order to test this thing, you can use the search explorer in the index, in the AI search. So let's see whether that is deployed. It's still deploying. Couple more minutes and then we'll finish. Yeah.
external knowledge to the model, then the model will have the knowledge related to that.
Related to, yeah. So even if you are using 3.5 turbo, that model, you will, because you are using your own data, it will search within your own data and then give it. So you don't need to worry about the current data, which is big, because 3.5 is not trained with the latest data, but because you're feeding your own data, you can just get the answers based on that model itself.
This process is called grounding. In what
Mm.
Indra was just explaining, it's called grounding.
The language
Mm.
just for the company.
Yeah, just for the company. Then you don't need to put that data in the, out there. So it will be just for your company. And also you can give the access to the web app only to few people. And when you can see that after the web app is deployed, you have to enter your login credentials. Only then you can chat with otherwise you can't. And if you have permission to use that web app, only then you can enter. Your credentials will work, otherwise. Yeah. Yeah, it differs. So how do you add the hotel name? It will be through the documents that we have entered. No, not via the chat. Yeah, if you want to do that, then you need to modify the code so that you provide an interface to add it, and then it gets added to the search part of it, where you are storing the data, and then you can do that as well. Deploying is taking a bit of a time. Any other questions? Online, any questions? Yeah. Okay. There is when you are adding your own data, there is a tick box. I don't know whether I have shown you or not. You can, if you want to use the knowledge of the OpenAI model, then you can tick it. Otherwise, default, it doesn't refer to the OpenAI model state knowledge. It only uses the knowledge that you are uploading, your data that you are uploading using this add your data. Yeah, it will search only within that. Any other questions? So there are a lot of things that you need at the moment in the networking part. I have said all networks. You should never do that in an enterprise organization. What you have is you have to configure VNets and subnets so that everything is private for your own organization. If you do that, then your thing will be secure. Even if you want to give access to only few people in your organization, you can restrict that. So it is secure. Only thing is it is stored in another region. That's all. Yes. Yeah, it is. Good questions. Any other questions?
Hey, Indra.
Yeah.
While it is being deployed, do you mind also showing everyone how Azure AI Search can hook into different data sources like blob and everything else?
Yeah, I've already shared that.
Oh,
Okay. Now, one more, what I can do is I can show you already deployed web app. Yeah. Okay, so once once this web app has been deployed, it looks something like this. And I think the internet is really slow, that's why. Okay, let it start. I have stopped this web service. Once this comes online, then I can start it and then we can use it. Okay, so I'll start this one because we won't be able to, okay, successfully started. So this will be the link that you can give to internal people, not external, internal people. And what it does is slow. Let's wait for it to load.
Indra, while we are
Yeah.
while we are waiting on the deployment,
Waiting.
just wanted to add here is in the slide deck that we were going through, there are pros and cons for each database. Just being conscious of time here, there are pros and cons for each database, which is Azure SQL, Cosmos DB, Postgres, and your Redis, cache Redis, and that can help you make a decision on which database to choose for when you're working on an embedding approach. And then there is also pros and cons for the three approaches that we went through: the embedding, the pull approach, and the push approach. We're going to share this deck with you guys so that you could go ahead and consume this information on your own time, just being cautious of time here. And there are a few use cases wherein, of course, generative AI are very useful and already being deployed in the industry in the last couple of years. So you can go through that. And the last bit is I just wanted to share that Data Engine is currently hiring for 3 roles: data engineer, data scientist, and data intern. I'm gonna so reach out to Indra, Akash, or anyone else who are there right now with you guys to talk about more about these roles.
And that concludes the slide deck. Let me see whether. No. Internet is, yeah. Let's leave it at that then. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that.
So I think it might take a lot of time to set internet connection.
Yes.
So I think it would be great. We can wrap it up now, and that's networking session and food and drink outside prepare as well. So if you have any further question regarding to the session and also like Azure environment or OpenAI, you can ask Indra and Akash. So they would be happy to answer your question. So
Thank you, online. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Indra.
Leave the meeting.
Thanks, Indra.
See ya.
Great job. Great job, Tushar.
Cheers, guys. See ya. Bye.
See ya.